Welcome everybody, this is the 3D Printer Chat Show and I'm your host Chris Garrett. I'm here with Daniel and I'm here with Miles. How are you doing?
Doing good.
You ready to go? You're all caffeinated, ready to talk about bed adhesion?
Sure. Some people would think that's boring. It's very, very important and we'll get into why.
Yeah, I have 3 bottles of hairspray right here, right now, so I'm ready to go.
It's amazing though, like 3/4 of the problems people have with 3D printing is because of poor bed adhesion, right?
Different kinds though, that you never know which one to get. It's these liquid ones, you have the spray ones, you have the bill tack or the pay sheets. You have so many different types that, yeah.
Dude, I'm a big fan of bill tack.
You are?
You are. Me too.
I really like bill tack.
Me too. I love it.
I've only used the fake stuff. You know what came on the One How that was like off-brand? I've only used that.
The real stuff is actually even better, but the fake stuff on the One How is pretty decent in itself.
Yeah.
Bill tack is great because you don't have to use any chemicals. There's no glue, no anything, just print.
One thing though on the bill tack, if you have... if you put your thumb on it, or if you touch it, you're gonna get this thin layer of oil on the bill tack, and it's not gonna work properly.
So you still need your isopropyl alcohol, right?
Yeah, you need to have clean acetone. Sorry, not acetone. You can use that as well, but you need to clean it off. Good.
Yeah, isopropyl. It's 70%, 99%.
Yeah.
I use
Every
PEI.
time I forget to do that, I get a problem with the bill tack. But when I use it, and I try to use it after every print, then I have no problems with it at all. It's wonderful. It works so good.
Yeah, I didn't really get used to the bill tack until I got my Black Widow, but I love PEI, and that's what comes with the Mark II, right? So I found that printed great if I kept it clean, like you say. So I put PEI on my One How on my glass, and that was a really good thing because my One How is dedicated to ABS. It's in an IKEA enclosure, and not having to put any glue down, any spray, being able to just print straight onto that PEI, it was just excellent. So I would recommend
that. Isn't PEI tacky as hell? I mean,
no, I found it
yellow. Yeah.
Do you mean things stick too well to it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the times you have to put glue on it to stop it adhering so well.
Yeah, I think with PETG and with like flexible filaments that can be a problem, but you can also back off on your Z gap. So for those that don't know, your Z gap is the distance between your print surface and the nozzle, right? And with adhesion, usually people say you've got to really stick it down, so you've got to make the layers squish, so you have to have quite a close gap. But with build tack and with PEI, sometimes your gap is too small and it's forcing the print layer too well and you can't get it off. And so that can be the reverse of the usual problem, which is people have it too high. You might have it too low.
Exactly, yeah. So, what do you think about wolf bite?
I've not tried it
as well. Yeah, I haven't used that, unfortunately.
Do you like that?
Yeah. I can actually get you some samples of Magic Goo and that Printerfix if you want to try that.
I have the Printerfix. I got a review, the kit that it comes with all the tools and everything.
That looks good.
There's a spray bottle in there. I haven't tried it yet. Would you recommend it?
It's good. It works. It works. But then again, hairspray works as well.
So is it the same chemical? Is it what's in hairspray?
Depends. I mean, the chemicals in hairspray has perfumes and it has different chemicals, obviously, because one is used only for hair and needs to be treating the hair good as well. So
the advantage of those things
has been
the nice thing about those things is that you can print on glass and get that really shiny, reflective almost surface, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw Adafruit put up a video where they did prints of flexible Legos that could stick right onto glass, and that was really, really cool because they printed onto glass.
Yeah, and a lot of people like that shiny surface. That's why I used to use blue tape with a Printerbot Simple Metal. It wasn't a heated bed, and I used to use blue tape, and sometimes I used to use glue on blue tape, but I never got that nice surface until I used glass.
Blue tape's okay, but invest in, even if it's fake, but or I say fake, even if it's an off-brand, invest in something like BuildTak or a PEI sheet. It's so much better to not have to constantly be taking off your blue tape. Yeah. It's cool.
One more thing. There's one more type, and that's the Cital glass. Have you tried that?
You're breaking up a bit.
Both of you are just quiet.
You're breaking up the connection.
It's a Russian.
No, I've not even heard of this glass.
No, Cital. I'll show you. I have obviously I have an article about it. I'll bring that up and I'll send it to you, and maybe we can link it in the description as well. But the thing with the Cital glass is that all the prints just pops off after you print it, and everything sticks really good to it. But it's the same as with the BuildTak. You need to clean it off properly, because if you don't, nothing's gonna stick.
Yeah, the grease and oils from your fingers is just terrible for it. Now
I'll send it to you there. If you want to try any of these, I actually have quite a few of Magic Goo, PrintFX, Cital glass, so I can send you a sample so you can try it for some follow-up episode that we're doing.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So one thing I will mention is in terms of print surfaces and bed adhesion. One thing that I know my friend Preston over at Press Reset, he swears by, and he loves those things. You know, if you talk about flex plates, so that you can take off and immediately just flex, so you don't yourself. There's no chisels or anything involved.
Yeah.
You know, you can just flex the plate, comes back to its original shape, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't get warped, and gets your print right off there. So those. Whenever I see him talk about them, his eyes light up. He just loves them so much.
Yeah, I get Zebra plate. I got Zebra plate for my new CR10, and it was expensive because it's like 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters. But knowing the problems I had with my Australian printer, that I ended up getting a Zebra plate for that. When you print big and it's a flat surface and that surface area is on the print bed, it can be really difficult to remove unless the model is designed with a little bit of a bevel or a chamfer, so you can get a blade underneath. You do need to be able to pop it off. But unfortunately, with the new bed, it wasn't entirely flat. The surface wasn't entirely flat, and that's the advantage of glass. If you can get a good piece of glass, borosilicate is the glass that people get for 3D printers, that it can be a completely print surface. You know, it's a completely level surface, and you don't have those dips and mounds in it.
Yeah, the wolf bite was really big, like in the beginning of 2016, and I think wolf bite is just, some of those anyway, is ABS slurry. It's just pre-mixed, I think.
And that is the advantage to ABS. We're going to do a full episode about materials, but one of the reasons people like ABS is that you can adhere it by using acetone. But you know, it's the problem with adhesion is doubled when you have ABS and you don't have an enclosure, because it just pops up and lifts off, and you know, getting the layer adhesion, it needs the higher temperatures. So a lot of people use PLA just because it's easier.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. Yeah. PLA has always been good to me.
Well, PLA is really. I was going to say flexible, but it's not a flex material. But it's really good for a lot of applications, right? Especially if you're doing things like cosplay or modeling, where you don't need that robustness that other materials give you, and you don't need a heated bed necessarily, but it helps, right?
It does help. Yeah, I've used. I would say 3D printing heated beds are where I see quite a lot of people have problems. Like, don't buy a really cheap heated bed, people. Don't expect to be able to just have something you bought for £30 or $30 be heating at 110 degrees for 26 hours straight, and just stick with PLA on cheaper hardware.
Yeah, I mean, my first ever printer had a heated bed, but the rest of the printer was terrible. So my second printer, it didn't have a heated bed, and so I used to have to use all of the tricks in the book to get my prints to not warp. And it wasn't so much them lifting off; it was that warp where the print doesn't come out with a flat bottom. And if you want two pieces to go together, that can be really difficult. And again, ABS warps as it cools. So if you're using your 3D printer to have a multi-part assembly, preventing warp is probably one of the biggest problems with adhesion. It's not so much it coming off.
Yeah. Now the thing, Miles, with PLA, why people don't want to use it, it's the decay. It's not sturdy enough. It's you can't have it outdoors. You can't. PLA is not good enough to do anything with, other than models or small miniature figurines or something like that.
Well, if you live in Sweden or if you live in London, you don't get the hot summers, right?
Extreme weather.
Yeah. No, exactly. If you live in Texas, you could have a different, or Arizona. You're not going to be able to leave your PLA stuff in the car. That's why car interiors are made with ABS.
Makers Musa made a video exactly that, him over in Australia, where he just showed PLA getting absolutely destroyed being in his car for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think we have one from Stan Baldwin as well, doing some tests on PLA and ABS. Let's link both of them in the description so everyone can see it.
Just if you're new to 3D printing, if you just want something to come out and look a certain way rather than do something, PLA is just easier to get on the bed. It's easier to get off the bed. It's easy to stick.
Maybe we should take this PLA, ABS, and types of materials into the next episode, because right now it's about adhesion, and I just got off topic a bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I can edit it all around. In terms of adhesion, one of the things that you can do with your slicer is you can have a raft. So do you ever do that? Do you ever print on a raft?
Almost religiously.
You do?
I do. I'm one of those people. Send your hate mail to me. I feel like it's worth it. I really like that flat base. It also is really forgiving if your printer isn't expertly dialed in, which sometimes, I don't want to spend the extra time. I'm kind of lazy. So I'm glad and I'm fine to spend the extra little bit of material just to have that super flat base every time.
I find a raft is really good if you've got those tiny, thin pieces of support that come off. I printed a Stormtrooper helmet, a little figurine, the other day, and there was just at the front where the vents of the Stormtrooper helmet is, there was this tiny support that kept coming off. So when I printed it again,
straight down.
Yeah,
support straight onto a bed is I just don't see the disadvantage. Honestly, I've always done it and I've never had a problem with them. It takes it adds a little bit of time, uses a tiny bit more material. And I always use fairly expensive PLA. I'm a big fan of color fab, to the point where after my first 2 rolls of it, I went out and bought a value pack, and I'm still using it a year and a half later. because I bought like 16 rolls or 17 rolls. And if you use a good PLA, you know, I know I really recommend Colorfiber all the time, and their check is definitely not in the mail.
No, but they will be. It will be.
Of course.
I mean, the invoice is
Okay,
going
so
out this week.
Hatchbox, if you're listening, I use Hatchbox almost 90%.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard great things about. There's good brands out there, but you know, PLA isn't that expensive. Even the expensive stuff like Colorfab, which is on the more expensive side, but I think still quite reasonably priced.
Yeah, I think there's almost something like a macho thing where people say, I don't print with a raft, and even to the point where I don't use glue, I don't use spray, I just print straight onto glass. You know, anybody that has to use any adhesion helper isn't, you know, a proper expert at 3D print. I say do what works for you. Whatever works for you, whatever gets you results, you do it. Go for it.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the attitude more people should have, and not start flame wars about needlessly pointless things.
And like another thing, speed. People seem to be obsessed with, you know, printing at 100 millimeters per second or over 100 millimeters per second. But my first layer, I do down at 20. You know, I really squidge that first layer. I do it really slow. I don't mind if it's extending the print time because I want it to be successful. I just find that works for me.
It's always better to wait than reprint.
Yeah, first layer porn is a thing. You know, it's
first layer
the same thing.
First layer porn, a live meme, great meme. Posting.
That's the Miles seal of approval. People send him your first layer porn.
I get immediately. It's great in the 3D printing. It's great in the 3D printing group on Facebook because I have I have an alert set up on this awesome administrator macro that every time the word porn is mentioned, I immediately get a notification in case I have to ban something and someone.
Send Miles a porn,
so I
people.
see all of the first layer porn, and that's some good stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I don't get that whole thing. I just want my print to be successful. But then again,
to successful prints.
Yeah.
First layers are, you know, your entire 20-hour print is going to be based on how good this layer is. If it's a terrible layer, it's going to be terrible print. If it doesn't stick down, well, you know.
So guys, how do help people fix this first layer? I say set gap and heated beds, and you need to check extrusion. What else? And how do you do that?
At least 50 on your heated bed, and make sure that Z gap is perfect. So, you know, do a test print and make sure that it's level and squidged the entire surface that you're going to be printing on, because the amount of times they only do a center check. They only check the bed is level and do the Z gap in the small area in the middle, and the print is bigger than that. But I slow the first layer, slow it right down, and sometimes I even have it hotter. You know, I usually print Hatchbox at 190. I might be over 200 for the first layer, just so it really sticks.
Yeah,
definitely slow down in the beginning to get that nice adhesion. 50% of whatever you're going to be printing at is what I generally stick to.
Yeah, and with Simplify 3D, you can make the first layer lines wider, or you can use more force by, you know, increasing the print height or the print width, and that helps. You know, making it have a larger surface area prevents it peeling up.
Yeah, that's really good. Another thing I've seen is heated beds. It differs so much between different printers and different types of beds. Like some beds, you have, when they say they have a heated bed, you can see if you take a heat camera like the one I have, you can actually see the lines, and it's only heating certain parts of the heat bed. You should check that the printer you're getting is actually heating the whole bed.
Yeah,
and if you check Prusa's printer, it's really amazing.
That's one of their innovations, and you know, people keep saying I could make a printer cheaper, they're overpriced, but you know, would you have the same bed? I think that only just now there's a third party that's selling beds that are supposed to be like the one that comes with Prusa Mark 2, because it does the bed leveling. It's got little parts in the bed to make that inductive leveling better, and it's got those heated areas so that it's got complete coverage of heat instead of just a hot spot in the middle. So a lot of printer beds are just circuit boards, right?
Exactly. And one more thing I was thinking about before I forget it is where you have heated beds where you actually only have the parts heated, like a frame or a rectangle in the middle or whatever, a square. Then the bed, if it's not glass, it's gonna get after, maybe not after a week or after a month, but after a couple of months, you're gonna see that if you use a ruler, it's not perfectly straight anymore.
Yeah, and
because
some come
that
like
heat
that.
is gonna change the structure of the metal, the structure of the aluminum in the plate.
Yeah, and that's another good reason for having glass, or some people use mirror tile. Yeah, so. Just to sum up, you need to have a heated bed, you need to go slow on the first layer, use your slicer settings, and if you need to have a helper like adhesion spray, glue stick, a raft, use it. Just use what works, and repeatability. So any final thoughts from you guys? Daniel first, any final thoughts on adhesion?
Nah, we covered most of the things that we needed to cover in this episode, I think. Use what works for you, and don't mind too much about what other people say. Just if
it works for you, if it works for you, it works for you. Don't get into these camps and fanboy over your particular type of adhesion method, please.
Yeah. It's the results that matter, not how you necessarily came by those results. So thank you for listening. And again, please review us on iTunes, give us a thumbs up, give us some feedback, tell us what you want to hear from us. Please share with your friends, and please keep listening. Next episode, we're going to talk about filaments and materials and what's good, what's bad, and what you should use for what application. Hope you check us out, and see you next time.
Bye.